guys? In continuation of yesterday's video, as you can tell, obviously we're in the same day, but I'm going to continue this of what we're going to be doing here. And today we're going to be getting that turbo off of here like we had talked about, and we are going to finish doing that coolant expansion tank delete. I know I went ahead and went in pretty far detail about the beginning of that in yesterday's video, so if you're looking at that, please go ahead and look back in the previous video of this and you guys will see how to delete most of that, and then today we're going to finish up the rest of it. So let's go ahead and get started. We need to get this turbo out of the way. It's not going to be fun, but we got to do it. So let's get this turbo out of the way, get the up pipe off, and we can start getting this thing to go rotated, guys. So we got our FP black out of here. Kind of a pain. Like I said, my stand is still drying. You guys know that yesterday's video, so we haven't been able to use much of this thing, unfortunately, today. So we didn't get to record much of that, but we got the turbo out of here. You can see we got the parent AOS out. That thing is sitting right there, and we have the turbo right over here. So that thing is all ready to go. Now this thing is packed nicely. Good job, JR. I wondered how you got all this stuff back here. Ta-da! Ooh, what's that? Yeah, that's old girl. So we gotta get all the stuff out. I'll get it laid out. You can tell we are putting a real AOS on this thing now, and we got a lot of parts stuffed up in here, so let me get these all out. Well, jumping quite a bit ahead here because, well, it was pretty windy and Travis and Josh came over. It really messed up my recording. No, I'm just kidding. They did come over. I was focused. I got pretty far, as you guys can tell. So, intake manifold's just sitting there. It's not bolted down, guys. Turbo also sitting there. There's a couple things we got to do, but the up pipe is all the way on and the wastegate is all the way bolted on, so that way we are in a good position. This is exactly where I wanted to be today. Pretty happy. Our intercooler core is on the car as well. Sat the bumper on for tonight, that way it's up and out of the way, safe. So tomorrow we can go ahead and continue on to this. JR did go ahead next day the pitch stop mount for the AOS, because we're going to be mounting that right there, not right there. So the delete on this expansion tank is going to have to wait a little bit longer, guys, but we can still continue and get this thing pretty much all together and all dialed. It looks really good. Obviously this looks 10 million times better than any stock location turbo will ever look, and that is my opinion. I think anyone will agree, because that is a 6466 with a 105 housing, for those of you that don't know, or maybe if I haven't said it in the video yet. ETS Rotated Kit, ETS 4-inch intercooler up there as well. So this thing looking really good. It's gonna wrap it up for tonight. As you can see, we're losing daylight, so we're gonna go ahead and end it out here. I will pick this back up in the morning and we'll continue getting this thing all together. Hopefully tomorrow, what my plans would be to get it all the way together, I guess, without the AOS, and from there we do have some fuel system stuff to do on the car, and we do need to reroute some boost lines, and there's a lot of little things. So I'll pick this back up in the morning. Have a good night, guys, and I'll see you in the morning. Good morning, guys. We're back out here, and we made some good progress yesterday. Today it seems like it's a little bit more tame right now with the wind, but I'm sure as I record it'll probably pick up again. So definitely, like you guys, I've said, I'm sorry, just can't do anything about it, but I want to give you guys some content, so you just kind of have to deal with the wind for now. Back on the JR's car here. Obviously last night we got the turbo put on, and today we are going to go more in depth on this rotated kit install, so that way I can further help you guys. You know, for everyone that's doing this, obviously there's no real instructions out there for how to put an ETS turbo kit on. I think the only ones that are out there are probably the videos that we've made, and those guys are great. They've always supported me, so I don't mind going ahead and supporting them and helping them create how-tos and DIYs on how to do this, because it helps you guys out. So with that, today we're going to focus on obviously the turbo kit itself install. And last night I put the turbo here, but it's not actually bolted down, so everything's there. You know, we have our oil return, we have our oil feed ready to go. On here we have our V-band, and I'm trying to get you the best view of that. So if you see here, this is a V-band housing on the turbo. The biggest thing you want to do is line up your V-band to make sure that the flanges are aligned before tightening it down, because obviously if you don't do that, you're going to have exhaust leaks everywhere, and it's going to be a much bigger pain to do later. So what I like to do is I like to take that clamp down and make sure it looks completely seated, and then put our clamp up and tighten it down. It just makes for better to do that. Now when you get these turbos, they're not going to be 100% clocked perfect. So sometimes you will have to make adjustments on the housing here or on this back housing to get it to be able to sit where you need. Now that's not that big of a deal. They're just 13mm bolts here, but make sure to tighten these up, guys. And then whenever you do like an oil change or something, just double check them, because we've had issues with those things coming out back loose again. So maybe put a little bit of Loctite on it, but I mean, with the heat on there, there's not really much that you can do. So definitely something to check in the future. We have our boost controller mounted up over to the side here, like always. The only thing is with the heat here, it tends to be pretty close, so we might relocate that. We'll see. I do believe he has a turbo blanket, so that will help. But the other thing that no one talks about is we have our engine harness here, right? So this is going to be all tucked down and nice. And on the back here, you usually have your big harness plug, which you can see I placed down onto the side frame rail there. And I've also changed the power steering line here. So if you take a look here, this runs up and underneath of that line right there. Usually that runs on the outside pretty close to the turbo. When you put it like this, you can zip tie it down there away. I know this thing's adjusting right now. You can zip tie it away, and we have obviously plenty of clearance from up pipe to power steering. So something to just keep in mind. And then further looking in the back here, give you guys a better view of that harness back there. Try and get it to focus. So you can see there, I've extended that harness and tucked it over to the side. So that way when we put our downpipe on, it's not going to be anywhere near it. You don't want that to burn your harness and have further issues, obviously. So kind of walks you through that. I'm going to get that thing dialed in, get it set up. I'm going to drop that clamp down and show you guys what I'm talking about with those flanges. And being done by myself, it's probably going to be pretty difficult, but I'm going to try to do my best on showing you that. Our wastegate, that's obviously already together. This is the one that was previously on this car. So I believe this has a 18 PSI base spring in there. So that'll be plenty for what we need. And obviously we have our dump tube on there. We have our two connections, top, bottom, that we can connect up to our boost controller. We won't be getting the AOS mount today. JR did order that later in the day yesterday. He did next day it. So I would expect to see that thing coming probably tomorrow is what I would assume. So with that AOS, I can kind of estimate where it's going to be, but is it worth it? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because I would like to show you guys today the rest of what we need to do for that expansion tank delete. And it's really straightforward, so you know, if you guys can picture what I'm talking about, and I probably need to get the AOS out here. We obviously have this hose that runs up from that power or the water pump like I showed you guys in the previous video. This comes up. What we're going to do with this hose is it's going to run into our AOS, and then out of our AOS we're going to run the other line to the back of the head. It's literally that simple. You're just using the AOS as a loop in the system. This turbo does not have any kind of coolant going through it, so that's what kind of changes that. If you were to have a Garrett turbocharger, they obviously have coolant. So if you were to have one of those, or a turbo that has coolant, you would take this line here, run it into the AOS, run it the AOS into the turbo back to the head. You know, in theory, you're just doing a loop again. So hopefully that makes the most sense. If it doesn't, please go ahead and comment below, and I'll try to dive more into that. And I've been trying to get better about going through the comments lately, trying to invest more time into YouTube again for you guys. I know it's kind of lacked, and recording has kind of lacked, but now that we have some nicer weather, the motivation has come back to try my best to do it for you guys. So here we are. Let's get started today. Let's go ahead and get that clamp pulled down and take a look at those flanges. So now that I got that clamp off of there, and I'm trying to show you guys as I hold the turbo here. So it gives you an idea of those flanges there, and I don't know how clear this is, and I'm holding this. I'm trying to get you guys the best view I can. But that's a good view there. You can see that they're completely seated there. That's what you want. So just make sure, and I hope this thing's frickin' focusing. You guys are gonna give me so much crap if it's not. Come on. I can't see anything, so it looks like it's focusing there. You can see what I mean about those flanges though. So that's what we need to have before putting this V-band onto there. And like I said, hopefully that focused, because if not, I'm sure you guys will tell me down below. So let me get this clamp on here and get this thing back together as I hold this. So I got that clamp all on there. My biggest tip to you guys that I can give is to leave all these loose. So we have obviously the turbo one on. Now we're gonna move along to our downpipe clamp back here, and we'll leave that one loose, and then we'll go to the bottom because that one's gonna have two. We're gonna have one up here, one on the lower portion, and it bolts to the cat back. It's just better to leave them all loose. That way it leaves you to where you can, you know, move this turbo around if you need to be able to get them to all line up. And then once they all line up and you got the clamps tight enough that it's holding those seats together on the V-bands, then you can go ahead and tighten them all. So let's grab that downpipe, get that thing thrown on here, and continue on. Now that we got this turbo all tightened up, we've ran into our first dilemma, and one of them, thanks Chandler, I'm probably gonna beat your ass next time I see you because you ruined one of these 3-inch V-band clamps. So now we gotta replace one of those. But underneath the car here, I got, oh geez, little room. I do believe, if I can show you this, come on lighting, that is a problem. So it's probably about I'm not getting into the measuring game, but we got a good gap there, at least 6 inches. So if I turn this thing around and I get up, we're gonna have to take this thing to Ranchbuilt to get that downpipe modified. And this is probably a good time to tell you guys that is not an ETS downpipe. So don't freak out, think that it's just not gonna fit your kit. Backstory. Or story time. This kit originally was from Travis. I sold Travis this up pipe. This used to be a T4 open up pipe that was a prototype from ETS that I used to use because obviously I work closely with ETS. He changed it over to V-band, and that's no big deal. It fits great. But he didn't order the ETS downpipe. He had one custom made, and his car did have an NVIDIA Q300 on it. And he also had made changes to his Q300 to where he cut out the resonator portion of it, or that little drop down actually. And if any of you guys have NVIDIA exhaust, you know how they have the little drop down and it hangs low. So he took that out of it, and obviously that means the downpipe is a different length. So Chandler had it on his car. He had a NVIDIA Q300 that was not modified, and it did fit. But now we have a Tomei and it doesn't fit. So whatever that might be, that's not the problem. Not an issue. We can resolve it. It is a problem. You guys know Tomeis, they are slip joints. I just don't think there's going to be enough of a slip joint to pull it back in. That's not really the right way to do it. So we're just going to go ahead and get that thing extended. I already talked to Ranchbuilt, hoping to get this thing in tomorrow to Thursday. Today being Tuesday, your guys' uploads are usually about a day off. I try to keep it as real as I can, but in order to do these daily uploads I've been doing, you got to obviously record ahead of time. So if we can get this thing to where it's ready to go to them, and then they can do that, that will work for me. So let's just go ahead, keep on working, see what else that we need to do on here as far as what we need to get hooked up now that we have this all set up. And look at this, we got Billy. Should we put Billy on camera? I think so. Let's just hit him right off the bat. Haha! What's up? Put you right off the bat on camera. Had to come up when I'm recording. Exactly. What's going on, guy?
Not much. How you doing?
It's like I inherited your car. It's been here for so long.
3 months?
Literally 3 months. And you want to tell them why?
Oh, because I'm stupid and didn't go rotated. That's why. I'm not going to beat around the bush.
I had to just get him to say it. Well, I'm going to show him his car, and then I'll catch back up with you guys on Jay Hart's car. Oh, just giving an update as we go here. I did get the intercooler piping all on this side, and you guys can see how this does go. So it comes along here real tight along the TGV, and this drops down. Now, one thing I really like to do that makes these things look a lot cleaner, and you guys have seen the engine bays, is I'll run the wire harness underneath here, and you can see it comes down along here. I move my ground right to that AVCS solenoid housing. Makes it nice, clean, down, underneath, nice and safe, and it looks a million times better. So we got that all on. We got our lower intercooler pipe on. Oops, knocking over stuff. These, you do have to hammer these in like I've showed before in order for this pipe to clear. This is normally where part of your crash beam that you no longer use. So did that. Normally I don't put these clamps like this, but we do have a ETS crash beam for this. That does need these to be required to put like this. So we will be putting that on. Coming over to the driver's side of things, obviously same thing. We have that same bracket there, and JR got a little bit of a weight reduction because he had this Perrin washer fluid tank here. This is an aftermarket, obviously, and it does come in the way of our intercooler pipe that is coming along right here. So we took that off, and there's that piece of that frame that we had to take off as well. Those are out of the way. We are making progress. I'm about ready to put the intake manifold onto this thing, just getting things tidied up, and wanted to go over and show you guys along the progress. So let me continue on. I'm going to go ahead and get this intake manifold thrown on here, continue to get the top of the motor done. But we are making some good progress today, guys, and it is beautiful outside. It's so nice. It's about 65 degrees, so perfect weather to be doing this. Very thankful to be doing it again with it being nice out. But let's keep on going. As you guys saw there, we just got our intake manifold on, and I did go ahead and have to take this back apart right here to make some adjustments, just so it can go ahead and bolt up in the location that it needs to on the intake manifold, just where the factory inlet does. So, but we got that figured out, got that sorted, and it is all on now. Everything's hooked up. I just went ahead and put this intake on here just for you guys to see what it will end up looking like. I still do need to do some things underneath of there for now. So hopefully we can get to the point, which I know we should be able to today, of starting this thing and you guys get to hear it for the first time. But with that exhaust underneath, obviously this thing's going to be open down pipe, so you guys won't be hearing it with the full Tomei experience. Other than that, I do need to go run and get a couple clamps and a couple adapters I'll be showing you for the AOS and that coolant expansion delete. So we will be going and doing that. And then yesterday, I know I was talking about the coolant expansion delete here. This is obviously not an OEM tank here, but you get the idea where this just needs to run into your coolant overflow tank. And I know there was a bunch of wind that was kind of interrupting what I was trying to talk about there. So hopefully that clears that up. You can see I have nothing along here anymore. That other bar is completely gone. There's nothing coming up through there anymore. And that is all completely gone and deleted. And it looks much cleaner, guys. This looks so good. There's just some few small odds and ends that we got to finish up, and I really wish we got that AOS bracket today, because we could 100% finish this engine bay, be done with this thing, and move on to the fuel system in the back of the car. But for now, like I said, we're going to go through it today. We're going to get as far as we can. Like, I'm probably going to sit the AOS there, not exactly hook it up. Well, I mean, I'll hook it up, but I won't be able to mount it. It's just so I can go through the car, bleed the coolant system, get it started, get everything ready to go. That's my goal today. I am going to measure underneath of the car, because Ranchbuilt said they would extend that exhaust about that much underneath. But I do need to bring them that part. Whether that gets done today, I'm not too sure. So I'm going to go grab some lunch. Good stopping point right here, and we'll get right back onto this in a moment, guys. So here we go. We are back from lunch, and we're going back over the car. I've been working away at this thing, and JR is going to be a little bit let down, because I had him order an IAG pitch stop mount, and the last car I put that on was one that had a different located turbo and a reverse facing intake manifold, so it's not going to work on here. So as you can see, obviously would have issues because it goes right here where the pipe is, and I have it nicely mounted right over here, so everything's directly straight, everything's going in. I am still hooking it up, so don't judge too much about where obviously hoses are going to. But let's talk about this, because now we have an AOS here for me to show you, and I can further explain what we're doing about the no expansion tank. So we have a turbocharger here, Precision 6466. No coolant runs through this turbo, as we mentioned earlier. So now, what do we do with our coolant lines that we used to have on our turbo? Well, for starters, we have one on the back of the head, which is going to be right back here, and there's a water pipe, and you're just going to have to take my word for it, because obviously I don't have enough room to get this big camera down there. But what we have is we have an AOS. We have two lines that come off of it. One right here, this is going to be a coolant line here, and then we have one going the opposite direction, which is right here. So we have, in theory, a loop in the system, right? Because obviously it's got to go in one side and come out the other. Now, imagine that being like your stock turbo, because obviously that's what we had to supply coolant to before. Now, the hose that we had on that water pump outlet over there is right here. And for those of you who just tuned in and haven't seen that, the water pump outlet hose is going to be, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to get this camera in here, guys. I showed you pretty well before, but obviously that was before all this stuff was back there. But it comes out directly right down here. So that's what that hose is that's coming across and out right here. This is what's going to connect to this. Now, obviously I need to trim this down and go through and clean it up, but I just had it ran out so I could put this intake manifold together and we could get this thing going together. Now we jump over to the other hose that we have on this side, right? Now this hose is what's going to be going to the back of the head down here. So I like to run it across the firewall, and obviously we want it away from our downpipe here because you can see our downpipe's right there. So I run it right by the AC lines, and then I'm going to end up putting it behind these brake lines back here. So you can see where my hands are. Put it behind that, and it runs nicely down along this frame rail and down to that port down there. Now you might be wondering, well, how do I get that hose down there because they're not long enough? Well, that's easy. You got to go to your Ace hardware store or any hardware store down the road from wherever you live, and these are what you need. These are 1/2-inch barbs. Look at that, it's a miracle. It's like the camera actually works now. So I have 2 of these. So obviously we are going to need to extend that hose there. So we're going to put the barb in here, and then we'll extend this hose to be able to reach to that. And that one, obviously we're not going to have to extend it, but we already have one really long hose on here that we need to connect to the IAG one. So it's not like we can just go ahead and put a new hose to the IAG unit because they have those special fittings on the bottom. So that's how you do it, guys. This is what you need. Look at that. I'm just proud of this thing actually working for once. So that's what you need. These things are like $5 at Ace. So we do that. I like to do some small clamps on it. So we take a look here. We go down to O'Reilly's. This is what I like to use. I think these look the cleanest, being that they're nice, low profile, small, and they do the job. So this is what you need. And if you want to see the size, man, this is like a whole new world of this working. So 3/8 to 7/8, and they're the nice slim boys. So that's what I use. Goes further in depth to show you guys. I'm gonna get this thing knocked out. After that, we are pretty much at the point of putting fluids in this thing and getting it started up. So let's get this stuff knocked out. I'll go over the overview of it and we'll get this thing started up. Now I got that connection in there, and just to show you guys, this is what it ends up looking like, and it does look really clean. Obviously if we didn't even have clamps here, we wouldn't even notice this is here, which is really nice. Goes in, fits. Never had an issue with one of these leaking. I mean, to give you an idea, how long have I had one of these connections together with that piece there? There's probably cars out there with 50,000 miles on this, and I've never had any issues with it. So just make sure you use nice quality hose. This is Gates that I'm putting on here. So this is what I would use, and obviously we have plenty of length here. I'm gonna get this thing ran down there, and I will try my best to show you guys, but it's gonna be tough with what you can see. So let me get that on. Well guys, once you keep working away, everything just starts falling in place. This is pretty much the final look of this car. Everything is together. The only thing really left is that exhaust underneath the car that we do need to get fixed. So I'm gonna pull off that first portion, but first I'm gonna measure it so I can take it into Ranchbuilt, and they're gonna extend it about that much for me. So I'm gonna measure it to see exactly how far I need. I'll take it in, they'll go ahead and measure it. Much easier to do that, but I can take that off down there because it's 2 pieces, and then we can put coolant into this thing and get it fired up. Make sure that we have no oil leaks, no coolant leaks, get the coolant system all bled, and then from there, obviously we still have a set of FIC 2150s to put in here for injectors, and we still have a fuel system to do, but we can know that everything is all said and done in the engine bay. So on the front of the car, I really wish that Chandler was here so I could donkey punch him for freaking giving him this thing and having a crash beam. I know there's a lot of you on here that like crash beams, and I don't have anything against them. It just makes it more of a pain to work with, that's all. I just don't really care for them. You have a nice big intercooler, that's a new crash beam, right? Just kidding. So we got this thing all together, giving you guys a view here, and it has come out really good. Nice and tucked, everything. You know, if you just take your time, you know, I went probably years of not having this vision, and this is when I was younger, and it took years of time to learn and, you know, kind of build yourself to have this vision. So hopefully I can push this onto you guys, and I can show you guys exactly what we've been doing, and you guys can get the knowledge that I've had to learn over the last, you know, 10, 14 years plus of working on cars. I've been working on cars, a little background, since I was 14, and now I am 30, so gives you an idea of how long I've been working on them. Started out with Hondas, moved over to Subarus, and now I like everything, guys. It doesn't matter. I've looked at a bunch of other cars. I've owned a Cadillac V2 CTSV, and that was a blast. I love American cars. I love Japanese cars. Obviously, I love my truck. You know, I like everything. It doesn't matter. You know, as long as I see someone's put time into something or you enjoy it, that's all that matters, guys. So, enough of that. We, like I said, are right there right now to get this thing fired up. I'm going to get the funnel thrown in here, get some coolant thrown in this thing. Oof, I probably should put that lower radiator hose on, or we're going to have some real fun, because she's not even on. So, I'm going to get that on, then I'll get the funnel in and get some coolant in this thing. So, let's do it. Guys, started right up, no leaks, everything's working just like it should. Woo, look at that turbo. I'm just letting the coolant system bleed right now, and once I get that bled, I'll go ahead and finish this off. We'll get the bumper back on the car. Intake's not on right now, just going over everything, making sure she's good.
Living life up in the fast lane. Hey. Living life up in the fast lane. And I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down. Living life up in the fast lane. Pedal to the ground, pedal to the ground, pedal to the ground. Living life up in the fast lane. Life, though you lemons, you just put them in Coronas, Coronas, Coronas. I've been working, I need that advance with the bonus, the bonus, the bonus. Ain't no thoughts about tomorrow, I'm just living in the moment, the moment, the moment. Full tank of gas and 200 on the dash, bitch, I'm zoning, I'm zoning, I'm zoning. Fast lane, living life up in the fast lane. Hey. Living life up in the fast lane. And I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down. Living life up in the fast lane. Pedal to